The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has been reviewing MDMA along with therapy as treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. MDMA-assisted therapy is on track for federal approval in 2024. And with more than 660,000 veterans under VA care known to suffer from PTSD, this approval can't come soon enough.
Privately funded research has demonstrated clear, positive results in treating previously untreatable PTSD with little or no risk to patients. This includes studies in cooperation with the VA for existence at the Bronx VA Hospital. Let me be clear, these trials are conducted with full FDA approval under medical supervision and in a safe clinical environment.
Joining us now is Juliana Mercer, a 16-year Marine Corps veteran who served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Juliana is now the Director of Veteran Advocacy and Public Policy for Healing Breakthrough, a nonprofit helping vets with PTSD. Juliana, first of all, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your service to this country. You've advocated for these treatments on Capitol Hill and have testified in front of Congress. Where are we at with FDA approval at this moment?
Lykos Therapeutics, formerly MAPS PBC, submitted a new drug application, or NDA, to the FDA this last December. The next milestone is 60 days later, which would be mid-February, and that is acceptance of the application. With the breakthrough therapy designation that was given to MDMA in 2017, Lykos has requested that the FDA grant priority review of the NDA. The FDA has 60 days to determine whether the NDA will be accepted for review and whether it will be a priority or standard review, so that's 6 months or 10 months respectively. If approved by the FDA, the DEA would then be required to reschedule MDMA, making it available for prescription medical use.
So that's moving pretty fast, 6 to 10 months. But first, walk us through MDMA specifically, and why is it so effective in treating PTSD, anxiety, and depression?
Yeah, so MDMA causes a chemical reaction in the brain. For somebody that has post-traumatic stress disorder, they're stuck in their trauma response, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And MDMA goes in, it's kind of like a switch. It flips that switch off so that you're no longer stuck in that trauma response. And once that switch is off, you're able to confront your trauma without having that trigger. And you're able to work with a therapist to get to the root cause of the problem and sort through the trauma that you're dealing with.
So you're a veteran yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about your own personal experience with your treatments?
Yeah, so I found myself in a place with no purpose and came across a nonprofit called Heroic Hearts Project. They're a nonprofit that takes veterans outside of the country to get psychedelic therapy in places where it's not illegal. I was able to receive psychedelic-assisted therapy and overnight, almost complete healing of 20 years of collected trauma and grief. And that was the answer that I was looking for my veteran brothers and sisters. And I felt like I needed to get this into as many hands of veterans as possible. And that's how I started advocating for these therapies, and am now focused on getting MDMA-assisted therapy into the VA system.
These therapies sound like they would certainly be a game changer, as they were for you. But I think when some people hear the term psychedelics or MDMA, they think of ecstasy or Molly, but those things are absolutely not the same. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so MDMA, what will be prescribed in the hospital setting, is a pharmaceutical. Ecstasy and Molly are street drugs. So they do contain a form of MDMA, but they are often cut with other substances. So that makes them not clean and not a pure version of MDMA.
And how concerned are you about the cost and access for this new treatment if it's ultimately approved?
So there is concern. We want everyone to have access to this, which is why we think it's so important to focus on getting this treatment inside of the VA system. Veterans will be able to access it for free under their care at the VA. And outside in the community, we're looking at pretty high costs and it not being accessible to all. So I think that the VA will be a model for other healthcare systems to be able to provide this type of therapy, and also hopefully down the line be able to implement it into insurance coverage.
You know, we've talked about how this will be a game changer and how this could be approved in a matter of months to a year, but how urgent is the need for the Veterans Administration to embrace MDMA as a treatment method for our veterans?
It's extremely urgent. We are losing more veterans every year here at home than we did in the combined 20 years of combat on the global war on terrorism. That's 6,000 veterans every year here on American soil. We've been trying desperately to find solutions to the PTSD and suicide epidemic, and we've gotten nowhere because that number of 6,000 per year has not changed since 2005. And we have a solution that is 71% effective in eliminating the PTSD diagnosis. And we have to get access to our veterans as soon as it's FDA approved so that we can start saving veteran lives.
So moving forward, do you think this could pave the way for other psychedelic substances to treat conditions outside of PTSD, anxiety, and depression?
Absolutely. MDMA is the tip of the spear, and it's not a classic psychedelic, but there are close to 500 different psychedelic compounds that are currently being studied in some form of the FDA process. And they're looking at things like Alzheimer's, eating disorders, depressive disorders, and they're also looking at cluster headaches and pain management. So there's a lot of potential uses for these compounds. And I think MDMA is paving the way for figuring out how to not only implement, but be open to these novel treatments.
Juliana, you're really doing great work, and I hope this, we'll see some progress in this world, this universe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Julia.
If you or anyone else you know is struggling from PTSD, anxiety, or depression, please call or text the number on this screen for more assistance. That's it for What's America Thinking. Come back next week. I'm Julia Manchester, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel. And also leave your comments and let us know what has you fired up in your region of the country.